game is good.
Good. All right. Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. Carl, I guess, regardless of the result, that performance is just got to be labelled unacceptable, doesn't it?
Yeah, frustrating to say the least. I've said to the guys in there today didn't see it coming in relation to where we were at. Yeah, we've had a 2-week break for circumstances which we know, but we were flat, we were lethargic. Obviously, we didn't lay a glove on anyone. We were second best all along, and first goal when we conceded it, we made it even harder for us. So yeah, not good enough for us as a group. We could only get better.
I guess the pressure was already there before you came into this game. It's only going to build. I mean, can you turn this around? Do you still believe that you
without a doubt? I said to you, there's pressure on every manager that's not in the top 6 of this league. I'm no different because I'm a foreigner. You know, you have to accept it, you embrace it. You sometimes have to enjoy it as hard as it is. It's not nice when people are not saying very nice things about you, but you have to stick to your beliefs and what you've grown up doing and what you know, and just work hard. And if you work hard, then generally, usually, what happens, it does turn at some stage. So we were miles off it tonight. We're not far away in relation to the bigger picture, but we were way off it tonight, and it's not acceptable.
Do you feel like you've got the time to turn it around?
Well, that's not in my hands, is it? You know.
What about? I guess. What do you feel needs to change? Is it just the players' effort levels? Is something the tactics?
Listen, I won't fault the players' effort levels. That's one thing I think is a cop out really from a manager, and I don't do that. My players work hard every day. Probably just said to me they train brilliantly, and then we play and we don't play to the levels that we train. And sometimes maybe I wish that we were really bad trainers and played well in games. But it's trying to find the balance of that. So no, I'll just ask them to rebound and respond. You know, this league is very, very tight, whether it's at the top or the bottom, and we lost an opportunity today against a team that were in a similar predicament to ourselves, and we gave them the little lift that they needed at home. What we've got to do is respond on Wednesday.
Yeah, I guess I was going to say it's a quick turnaround for you. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, it's always a good thing. You always want to play games. We've played, I think, one game in the last 5 weeks. So, you know, everyone says, oh, it's great and you train great, and then you lose players through injuries and through COVID scenarios and things like that. So try and get into a rhythm. We looked like we hadn't played. That's no excuse because we weren't good enough.
Will you look to make any changes for the game on Wednesday? Are you going to give the same players who played out there tonight the opportunity to rebound and respond?
No, there will be changes. I wanted to ideally try and keep the same team that I could, if I could have, that played 2 weeks prior, but I wasn't able to do that. So there will be. Some of the boys I thought looked very, very tired for obvious reasons, as you can put 2 and 2 together and come up with. So I had to protect them as well. They look very, very tired. So there probably will be changes, yeah, and there needs to be, because we need to go and get a result on Wednesday.
Any positives that you can take out of this game? Anything at all that can go on?
Now you're making me think, aren't you? No, not really. What I'll say is the players didn't give in. All right, they didn't go under. And when you lose a game of football, it's not nice. And sometimes when you lose 2 or 3-0, I said to the boys, if you'd have lost 1-0, then I think sometimes you can kid over a performance about you weren't that far away. We lost 3-0 today, and we deserve to lose. You know why that is? I've got to find out the solution to that, but that's not acceptable for us. That's not acceptable for my players. That's not acceptable from me. I'll analyse it, they'll analyse it, but we'll get back to work and we'll go even harder on Wednesday, because one result changes everything, as Brisbane have found out today. I'm sure a couple of days ago, you know, when they lost the game, they didn't feel great, and now they feel great, and they're celebrating out there. So, you know, it's football.
Any questions on Zoom?
Yeah, Carl, just before you said, Carl, that as a team you thought you weren't far away from the bigger picture. How can that be true when a night like tonight has happened, and you're saying it's completely unforeseen, like you didn't see something like this?
Well,
those two things don't match up.
No, well, they do, Vince. If you talk 2 weeks ago when we went to the Champions, and we probably, you know, we were fit and healthy, and we played as well as we have done this year, and we should have won the game. All right, so I know we're not far away when we play to that levels. Maybe I didn't rephrase it right. So we didn't play at those levels today, like we did 2 weeks prior. And I know that we can play at them levels because we did 2 weeks ago. We didn't today. And we haven't, by the way, enough this year, and that's fair. So the reason why I know there's hope is because we've done that last week, 2 weeks ago, and we should have won, but for a missed opportunity from maybe a VAR call. But we didn't, and that's what gives me hope. So whether I missed that out or whatever, but that's what I meant.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
You seem to have hinted a couple of times around like fitness and healthiness
Yep.
in terms of players. Like, are you suggesting that there's a bit of COVID hangover from a few blokes, and that might have been a contributing factor here tonight?
Well, listen, we lost the game because we deserved to lose. We didn't deserve to get anything out of it. But I can't tell you, and without me naming names, because that's not right. I know some people do, but I don't think that's my right to give you who has had it, unless they want to. You just don't know what a toll it takes. I had some that weren't able to train for a period of time. I had some that it didn't seem to affect, but it did seem to affect some of them today, obviously with the heat and humidity here. So was that the reason we lost? No. That's not the reason. I'm not using that as an excuse, but I just don't know in 3 or 4 of the boys' bodies because, you know, they have been off for a little bit of time. So, you know, I can't question their effort and desire as I was asked in here because I just don't know how they're feeling inside because COVID, as we know, takes its toll on everyone differently. So for me to say and make a random statement, I don't think would be, 1, fair. 2, I don't know what goes on in people's bodies, but clearly we're not at a level of fitness in relation to the circumstance that we need to be. But that's no excuse.
Any questions on?
Obviously, you've got some great players with great CVs. Look at Manias, Rodwell, sorry, I should say, Charlatos, Hamed. How much confidence does it give you that you've got the players with great CVs who've been there and done it before and intend to turn this around?
Well, that's a good thing now in that locker room. I've spoke to them, and you've got players, the senior players. We've got a lot of talented young players, as I keep saying, as most A-League teams have, and that's good. You know, you want to see the young ones progress, but the young ones go with the flow. Really, they don't know what is ahead of them in their futures. The older ones do. They've been in good teams, they've been in difficult teams, they've been in bad teams, they've been in teams, they've been out of teams. So you have to lean on their experience. You know, yes, we've lost Rhys Williams last week to a really tough injury, who was the captain of our team, and we've had to now lead by collective. So I've asked those boys to step up a little bit. Tonight wasn't our night, but it's important that you have people who've got the experience of them players you named, because they've been there, they've done it, they understand that it is a game, they understand what they need to do to try and get themselves out a little bit of a hole, and we're in a little bit of a hole at the moment, and there's no shying away from it. You can't hide and blame. You know, that's not the culture that we try and create or gets you anywhere. So the senior players are very important.
Obviously, look at Tom Hamed, one of the names that was mentioned. You tried to create something in the box tonight in the 6-yard area and was unable to do so. How frustrating was it that you were unable to aid him and get the ball to his feet so he could create any chances? Yeah, no, very frustrating for Toma as well as us. And the balance of the team today, we tried to play away with the two wider players, Dimmy rolling in and Rami staying out to try and get crosses in the box for Toma. But it can't just be Toma that's in the box. It needs to be the midfield players. It needs to be Jack. It needs to be Keanu and Stevie. That's where they got the goals from, I think, last week, 2 weeks ago. So he was isolated at times. We had a lot of ball in the 2/3 of the field, which we always do. But we went back to being passive in the final third, which is not going to score you goals. So he'll be frustrated. I'm frustrated for him, but he put a very, very hard shift in as well.
So a lot of the things you've said in this presser, you've said before, one of the fans have heard a lot of what you said before. Why should they have any faith that things are going to be different this time around?
Just because if you don't believe, then you give in. And the one thing I won't do, Vince, is give in. I think you know me, I'm a pretty straight shooter, I'll tell you as it is. And today we weren't at the races. But, I'm not going to give in. You don't give in. Players don't give in. If players, I've said to them, if they don't feel like they can contribute and win games of football, then come and see me. It's no problem. I've got players that are not in the squad. I've got players that are at the moment are injured, that are desperate to get, young players that are desperately trying to get game minutes. I'll play them, no problem whatsoever as well. So what gives me hope is that I believe in them. What gives the Wanderers fans hope is, there's two ways you go when you're going through a difficult period at a football club. you either blame, and that's fine, or you just roll your sleeves up. And I say that internally as well as externally. I can't change their mind just on a press conference by talking or trying to spin them a line. I'm not going to do that. What I'll do is I'll let actions speak louder than words. So I'm going to have to get back to the drawing board, focus on training tomorrow and Monday, and try and win games on Wednesday and Saturday. That's all I can do. And then suddenly maybe you can change the narrative.